This particular group has a chance to be very, very special and historic.
Still, somehow that hate and that passion for this rivalry still
The
exists.
same schedule that they depicted us to be the last in the freaking conference is the same schedule that we're 8-4 on.
Not quite, my friend. Give me the Mountaineers, baby.
Neil has done exactly what he said he was going to do when the university entrusted him in this position. Trust the climb, give me a few years, let me get my culture in here, let me build the way I'm going to build.
It is time for the Backyard Brawl. It is the Walkthrough Game Day show presented by West Virginia on SI. I'm Schuyler Callihan, and that is my partner in crime, Eugene Napoleon. It's going to be a fun episode. I love doing these Backyard Brawl previews. It's a lot of fun to kind of rehash some of the history of the rivalry. You played in this. You've been in both sides of it. For people that don't know, Eugene started at Pitt, spent a little bit of time there before transferring to West Virginia, which was the better decision, obviously. And I may be speaking for you here, but I know that's what you're thinking. So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about with this Backyard Brawl. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about last week's game again, about Albany, and that win 49-14. And then after the break, in our little trivia, we'll dive into what this matchup is between the Mountaineers and Panthers this upcoming weekend. So, before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Give us a follow on our X account, Twitter, whatever you prefer to call it, at SI_WVU. And let's go ahead and get this thing started, Gene. So last week, West Virginia 49, Albany 14. As we talked in a post-game show, wasn't the most impressive performance by any means. They got out to the 21-0 lead. They let Albany kind of hang around there for a little bit in the middle eight, the last four of the first half, the first four of the second half. But then they started to find some confidence. They got that goal line stand, and then after that, it was just cruise control the rest of the way for the Mountaineers. Now that you've had a few days to sit on it, just what other thoughts have kind of popped into your mind about that game and about this team through the first 2 weeks?
I mean, I thought it was good. I thought it was obviously a good win. It was put it this way, it's a much needed win after losing the way we did, at home against Penn State the week prior. So you always want to regroup and play another game as fast as you can to get that taste out of your mouth and to get that performance out of your mouth. So it was good. Most people will say, "Oh, well, it was Albany." Yeah, but you get a chance to clean up your mistakes. You get a chance to fix some things that you need to fix, especially going in the pit. So I was glad from that aspect. The thing that I'm looking forward to, the consistency that we need to move forward, even going into Pittsburgh and thereafter, that win at home against Albany kind of puts me in the mindset that we should be okay. Because you clearly get an understanding of what you can do because you did it against, even though it was Albany, you did some things that looked good on film that we should be able to build on moving forward. Even against, Pittsburgh, you did it against Albany. You know that you can do it. Now let's be consistent and let's move it forward. We should see some remnants in this Pitt game as to what we did and what we learned from the Albany game, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Sounds crazy, but we should see some remnants, meaning that we fixed some things from week one when we lost, to Penn State. We kind of got back on track with Albany. Now we got to take that, and that has to travel with us to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
I agree with you. I think you can always learn a lot from these games, and probably more so than the occasional fan or casual fan would probably notice. And here's the thing too, and Chris made it a really good point in on Between the Ears earlier this week, is yes, the defense didn't look great. They gave up over 300 yards through the air against an FCS team. But in these types of games, you're more willing to try some things and see what you can do and do some things that you probably wouldn't have done in week 1 against Penn State, or maybe what you won't do in week 3 or maybe the rest of the season, because that's the game where you can find out, can we do this? Can we do this type of coverage? Can we have this type of personnel on the field? Can we bring these types of blitzers from this angle or that side of the field? That's where you find those answers. You can only rep it so much in practice, but you don't
Right.
really get a true answer because you're going up against your own people. So doing it in these types of games makes a lot of sense. The turnovers are obviously an issue. I think through the first 2 games, they've turned it over 4 times. That's not
Yeah.
characteristic of this football team, at least as of last year. They were really good about taking care of the football, so that's an issue. They got to get more rush on the passer. That's something that I think has kind of been really
Mhm.
eye popping, alarming, whatever kind of thing that you want to coin it as. Only 1.5 sacks last week against Albany. Take that for what
Yeah.
you will, but yeah, I don't know that there's much that you can outside of that, that there's much that you can really take. Secondary wise, though, the last thing I wanted to talk about here, because me and Chris already talked about this last week against Albany. You give up all those yardage. Like I just said, you could try some different things to see what you can and can't do. But when you go back and think about how that game unfolded, are you concerned about the secondary right now heading into this game against Pitt, who likes to really throw it out and air it out? Or are you just more concerned about West Virginia fixing the small, minute details that Jordan Leslie alluded to earlier in the week?
It's a combination of both. The biggest thing, we have to get pressure on the quarterback. That's above everything else. Get pressure on the quarterback and make him make mistakes, right? That's one. Two, I'm really looking forward to seeing how our secondary plays against Pitt, because at this level, all of these guys are biting at the bit to fix the mistakes and to play better in the secondary as to what we did against Albany, even against Penn State.
Mhm.
I'm sure of it. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what we do, even Jordan Leslie and that defensive staff as a collective staff, the type of what we're going to call the
Yeah.
schemes, the different, exotic packages that you put together against Pitt. I'm looking forward to that because, again, I'll say it again, and I think you know what I'm going to say. The defense does not call their own plays.
That's the theme of this show here the last couple of weeks. But it's true. It's true.
What happens is whatever you repped, whatever you schemed, whatever you put together as a staff, and now you're giving it to the players to execute. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to them knowing the personnel packaging that we're going to put on the field that's going to execute this to a T to get this win at Pitt. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. I don't, like I said earlier this week, I don't think there's anything to be absolutely freaking out about or nervous about. I think it's week 2. A lot of newcomers in that secondary. They're gonna figure things out. History has proven that under Jordan Leslie, this defense gets better as the year goes on. Don't believe me? Look up the stats. He finished in the top half of this league in pass defense every single year, except for one, which was 2022, and they lost Charles Woods, their number 1 corner, in the backyard brawl to open up the season. So take that for what you will. But let's go ahead and move into this backyard brawl. No more Albany talk. It's the backyard brawl week. We're going to dive into the preview here in a little bit, but time for just the importance of it. And there's this interruption that comes up here in a couple of years. So you got the game in Pittsburgh this year up at Acrisure. Next year it returns to Morgantown one final time in this current setup. And then you go into a little bit of a hiatus before returning in 2029. Interestingly enough, though, Gene, Neil Brown kind of spilled the tea a little bit earlier this week in his press conference and said that they've got to fix their schedule, and even mentioned that Alabama home and home series that hasn't been fixed yet. So I think that's something that at least from my perspective, I think you cancel the Alabama series. It sounds crazy because it's an opportunity to host a big time major program in your stadium, and you're going to have the national spotlight on you. But I don't really care. Like if you lose Alabama and it means you get Pitt and not
Yeah.
have a at least 2 of those 3 years eaten up by an Alabama series, 2 games you're probably not gonna win anyway, I'm all for it. So, I think you've gotta figure a way to get this thing going in those 3 years that it's gonna go into a hibernation. The tricky part of this, Pitt just let go of their athletic director, Heather Light. So, obviously,
Mhm.
that's not gonna happen anytime soon, that new deal with Pitt, but I think it has to get done. I think you gotta do whatever it takes to get rid of the Alabama series. Thoughts on that?
Well, first off, um, take a little solace to you talking about, well, maybe in 2 games you're not going to win anyway. So I don't know about all that, brother.
How about this? Let me rephrase it. 2 games you probably won't be favored in.
Okay, you know what? I'll see what you did there. I'll take that. That sounds a little better. All jokes aside, no. For me, I would love to cement the backyard brawl. Period.
Yep.
I think just from a fan perspective, it's an important game. It's historic. It's one of the most historic games in college football. If you don't believe me, just go check the history of the backyard brawl, right? So, no, I would love to that be a staple within the schedule every freaking year, to be honest with you. But I do understand, from a cash value standpoint, and again, everything is always about the bottom line, Scholar. You know that.
Yep.
I could understand where a West Virginia Alabama series would be enticing from a network perspective, because again, it's all about the dollars and cents at the end of the day. You saw what happened with who was it? Notre Dame and
Northern Illinois.
Illinois. You saw that. So what was it? $1 million Notre Dame gave Northern Illinois to come
To
in
come in and
and
beat them.
yeah. And okay, well, we saw that. So I'm sure when Northern Illinois saw that on the schedule, everybody, oh, well, why are you playing them? And, well, it's money involved. It's all these other things. It's business, right? Nobody thought that Northern, Illinois would go in there and actually beat Notre Dame at home. So to that point, my good brethren, any and everything is possible. So don't be so quick to say,
Don't be so
okay,
quick to slight the Mountaineers.
okay, there it is right there. There it is. But no, I would love to continue to see a West Virginia in Pitt, the backyard brawl, just because of what it actually means and what it's always meant historically.
You have to find a way. I mean, I get the importance of trying to keep a series like with Alabama, but if it's going to come down to you cut Alabama or keep Alabama for the backyard brawl, I think you cut it. I mean, this game means more to the
Yeah,
people, to the fans, to the programs than any 2 games against Alabama would. And I understand it might do something for the recruiting, but
it means more to the region.
yeah.
Think about that. You know what I mean? Just historically, it's always has. So no, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at this series, I mean, it's tricky because you look at the all-time, wins and losses and all that stuff, and Pitt is, they got, I think it's like a 20 plus game lead in the series. However, though, Gene, if you go back from, I believe it is, yeah, the start of the 1963 season,
Hmm.
West Virginia leads the series 26-23 and 2.
Yes.
You were, well, I shouldn't say that because that might give away the trivia, um, but yeah, since 1963, the Mountaineers have the edge, which is considered modern day football and then some. So I don't want to hear about Pitt's 15 national championships, most of which probably aren't even recognized by the NCAA or mythical back in the early 1900s when only 5 people were playing. Um, but this feels like a series over the years that has kind of shifted towards West Virginia, even though still it feels close in the 26-23 to 2, but it feels like West Virginia has closed the gap, taken the lead, and maybe even then some in terms of the trajectory of these 2 programs.
Absolutely. No, I believe that wholeheartedly. To even restate that point. So I came out of high school in 1985, transferred to Pitt, had to sit out from Pitt to West Virginia, had to sit out the 86 season. One of the clearest points to that was that exact fact that I kind of saw where West Virginia was going. I kind of understood, they turned the corner. Even back then, looking at how close Pitt and West Virginia was in the games that they played, it was always a brutal knockdown, drag out fight. And if you're any kind of competitor, you want to be part of that.
Oh yeah.
You want some of that action, boss.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean
so
these rivalries just mean so much, and I think that's the piece of college sports that obviously we're getting away from with this whole new, setup with conference realignment and everything, but you can't take out the pageantry of these things. And I'm just telling you, like I was there for actually the last two backyard brawls last year, and then the first year it came back. I've never seen a crowd at Acrisure Stadium, Heinz Field, whatever you like to call it, like I saw 2 years ago. That
yeah,
was insane. Most years, if you remember, in the earlier Big East days and in the earlier 2000s, West Virginia fans would go up there and just dominate that place. They would take that place over, and who knows, maybe it happens again this Saturday, with Pitt coming off a 3-win year, West Virginia a 9-win season. But it's changed, and even though we've had that big of a gap between the last time they played and then 2022 it would have been, it's insane to me how much hatred that still lives there in this rivalry, because not only are you out of the same conference now, but you're not even really fighting for the same things anymore. Like, because a lot of the kids you recruit may not be some of the same kids you recruit now. West Virginia's dipping into some different territories now that you have the Big 12 footprint. Now, obviously, they still recruit Pennsylvania and Ohio and stuff like that, but there's some
right.
other territories that they're hitting up now. Same thing with Pitt being in the ACC. They may be going more northeast. Who knows? Or heck, even the ACC now, you have California. So you might be recruiting out there in LA for all I know. But it's just a fun rivalry. And, I did and I told you this before we started recording. I went back and for some reason just decided to rekindle that '07 flame, and
Yeah,
it's a bad taste. Just to feel that over again, it just makes you. I don't even know what the feeling is. I don't even know that you can express it. You didn't have that happen to you, but you played in a national championship
mhm,
for West Virginia, and you've also seen one slip right through their fingers as a fan. Which one
right.
hurt you worse? Obviously, I'm going to guess it's the one that you played for and you actually in the championship, but that
Yeah.
'07 one's pretty tough.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, yeah, obviously playing for one and then losing it, yeah, and playing in it, and yeah, that all these years later, it still bothers me. To be honest with you, when you think
Yeah.
about what could have been and what should have been. So no, it's a close second because I really felt they had a really good team. We had a really good team, man. Pat White and those. Listen, that
Yeah.
whole unit was something. Just I loved watching that brand of West Virginia football.
Yep.
You understand? It was exciting. So when they lost that game, yeah, man, that was tough to swallow. Yeah. Matter of fact, for like a few weeks, that was tough to swallow. I was like, because you were right there, right? And being on a team that accomplished that, and knowing what that felt like to represent the state of West Virginia, the university, to represent, individual players and your family and all that great stuff, and the fans, Mountaineer Nation, and dude, there's nothing like it when you're playing for all the freaking marbles. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh yeah.
Outside of in the Super Bowl, or if you played in whatever professional league you played in, you're playing for that championship. It's the same feeling as at the collegiate level when you're playing for a national championship. And I would have loved to have seen a Pat White led team go there. And I would have loved to have seen what would have happened.
I
Because it
think we
was
all
freaking
know what probably would have happened.
they was something different, man.
They would have probably won.
Yeah, that unit they was something different. So yeah, it hurt. Yeah, I'm gonna say that was a close second to us losing to Notre Dame. You know what I mean? In the Fiesta Bowl. Yeah, it still stung almost the same.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just the part that makes it worse is that it is your heated rival. And yes, it wasn't the national championship, but that's something that program is going to hang its hat on forever. They are going to scream that score every single year that they play you, whether it's
Yep.
home or away. Every time
Yep.
they see another fan from West Virginia, they're going to remind you of that game. And that's
Yeah.
what makes this rivalry so intense. It was already intense before, but
Yep.
it makes it so fierce and vicious from the West Virginia side because you're just like, you can't really say anything back because look, they got you when they shouldn't have got you. And that's
Absolutely.
a hard thing to recover from.
It is. But I'll tell you one thing. I will share this with you.
Oh.
You know what sticks in my head? 31-10.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to see if you can remember what that score was. 31-10.
Wouldn't happen to be one of your games, was it?
You better believe it.
80,
now that was
87?
No. 88,
I mean,
baby.
88. Yeah, 88. Okay.
Yeah. So when somebody gets a little bit and they start with the history, listen, when you dominate your rival like that, clear cut, just kicked. Okay, this is a
a family show, a family program.
This is a family program. So that's what I hang my hat on that. There's a lot of stuff to hang your hat on in this rivalry, but I choose to hang my hat on that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's one way to look at it for sure. I mean, that's a team that went to the national championship. They didn't prevent you guys from going there that year. So,
Exactly.
but I mean, this rivalry it's a lot of fun. It has to keep going. I don't know what Ren Baker and the future Pitt AD need to do to make it happen, but they need to make it happen.
Yes.
But before we get into our preview of the game, we'll go ahead and dive into our trivia question of the week. And oh, looky here, Gene. It just happens to feature yours truly. So this week's trivia question is, and Gene, if you don't get this, I'm going to smack you upside the head through this Zoom interview or through this Zoom call. But Eugene Napoleon was the leading rusher in 2 of his 3 backyard brawls between 87 and 89. What was his record versus those Pitt Panthers? Did he go a perfect 3-0, 2-1, or 1-1-1? Did he get a tie in there? Gene, I'll ask you this. Did you even know that you were the leading rusher for 2 of those 3?
Absolutely.
He's like, I got the newspaper clippings and all.
Absolutely.
Good deal. Yep. So we'll go ahead and take a quick break here. And this week, since we do actually have a team in the FBS, we're going to send it to a break. Quick highlights of West Virginia versus Pitt and College Football 25 simulation. I got to admit, this was an epic comeback, an epic finish to this one. We'll talk about it in the trivia coming up after the break.
This matchup today, part of the lifeblood of the sport. A rivalry game where the results will be remembered for a lifetime. To the line on 2nd down. He's looking to throw. Fires to the wideout. And the pass is intercepted. Looking for more room. Oh, he was hoping for the pick 6. Instead, he got it down to the 16-yard line.
Not the start this kid was looking for. Very first pass of the day gets picked up.
Tested situations here on 3rd down.
Into the end zone. Try it from the right hash, and the angle shouldn't be too bad from this distance. Scanning the field, it's Green. Looking for the score. And makes the grab in the end zone. Touchdown, Mountaineers. They'll throw it on 1st down. Unloads to the wideout. Wide.
Like they were aware of it, and all of a sudden you've set yourself up in a tough position here on 3rd.
Pulls it in the end zone. Touchdown, Panthers. Looking for a man. It's Green. Going to try to pop one on the screen. Running with power. Still running at the 40. Hit the afterburners, kid. Touchdown, West Virginia. They take the lead with the 6. Trailing and getting deep in the game, they'll go for it here on 4th and goal. Looking downfield, it's Holstein. Touchdown, Pitt. And with that, they move out front here in the 4th. Now the opportunity with a touchdown to take the lead. He wants to throw it. Fires into the end zone. Touchdown, Mountaineers. And they've got the lead in the final minute. He's looking for an open man on 2nd down. He's going up top here late in the game. Underneath toasted coverage, got it deep downfield. They're looking to pass from the red zone. And that pass is intercepted. This is why the passion of college football runs so deep. The rivalries. And when you lose, man, does it stick with you.
No doubt about it, Reese. This was a game circled for a very, very long time. They knew how important this one was. But, David, you can't let games like this beat you twice, because this losing team now has to find a way to rebound and go out and play again.
No doubt, got to rebound, but this one stings. This is the one that you have circled for a reason. It's a rival, it's bragging rights, but you're right. Let's get back to practice this next week to start focusing. This one's over, but I'm going to get you next year.
So that's going to do it for us. For Jesse Palmer, David Pollack, I'm Reese Davis saying so long. This has been another presentation of EA Sports College Football.
And we are back here on the Walkthrough Game Day show. And Gene, my goodness, that was some pretty cool stuff. Once again, College Football 25 coming up clutch. And as I was telling you as we were watching it, that simulation could go a million ways. I'm not controlling it. There's no way to tell what's going to actually happen and unfold there. But for that finish to happen in this game, a backyard brawl, big time rivalry, pretty insane stuff. Hopefully it's not that much of a game down at the end, because if not, some people might lose a few years off of their life, but that was a lot of fun.
Oh, definitely. Oh, I love it. I love it. And you know what? Look, I don't care if it is just like that. As long as that's the end result, I'm good.
Right. You don't want Pitt to be the one that gets that last throw into the end zone to be completed and you lose right at the buzzer. My goodness, that would be a stinger for sure. So back to our trivia question that we asked you guys before the break. Eugene probably already knows the answer, but we'll go ahead and get it anyway. So this week's trivia question was, Eugene Napoleon was the leading rusher in 2 of his 3 backyard brawls from 87 to 89. What was his record versus the Pitt Panthers? A, 3-0, B, 2-1, or C, 1-1-1. And Gene, I'm not even going to ask if you know it, because you better know it. I know you know it. Go ahead and reveal the answer, and go ahead and just give us a brief summary of those 3 games and what it was like playing in those games.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it was C. So we were 1-1-1, during my time at WVU, and obviously, boy, I would have wished it was 3-0. Okay. But there was some really good games in there. The 87 game, which was really crazy, that 6-3 game, man, we struggled to get things going for some odd reason. But so did Pitt. Our defense really bolstered and played well. That's why it was such a low scoring game. And then obviously we kind of knew, we got Pitt's number. The next time we played, we see them. And of course it was in 88. That was that 31-10, blowout that I was talking about, which was awesome because that was actually at Pitt.
Yeah.
That was at Pitt, They came back to us my senior year in 89, and dude, that was a night game at WVU my senior year in 89, and it was a 31-31 freaking tie. Man, listen. And it's funny because when you tie, look, it felt like a freaking loss, even though it was a tie. We should have beat them. We had a great week of preparation. We were prepared. It's just little mistakes we made in that game And when you're playing a rivalry game like that, you can't make mistakes.
And there was no overtimes then, right? It was just straight 4 quarters.
With straight 4 quarters. And I'm trying to think. No, if I can remember correctly, I don't think. I'm not sure if there was, but no, there wasn't. It was straight 4 quarters, and it was unfortunate because we had a chance to pull that out. And for some odd reason, man, like I said, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot in the fourth quarter, and we wound up, 31-31 tie. But you walked off the field feeling like, like, man, you know what I mean? Because for me as a senior, I knew that's the last chance I'm gonna get against these jokers, and yeah, it wasn't a good feeling. I lie to you not.
Honestly, the better question for you earlier should have been, was that more of a stinger for you or the championship game? And I know again the answer is still the championship game, but to tie like your last time playing your bitter rival, like that's, and it meant more for you obviously because you started your career there, so that had to sting almost as bad as the championship.
It was championship, let's say 1A, and that's like 1A minus. You know what I mean? It just wasn't a good fit.
Yeah.
Honestly, it wasn't a good feeling because we didn't play our best ball. Yeah, I'll say that. We didn't play our best ball, and we still wound up tying Pitt when we really should have beat Pitt. To be completely forthright, we probably should have beat Pitt by at least 10 points in that game.
Well, thank goodness there's no more ties in college football, and hopefully they get rid of it in the NFL one day. I think it's ridiculous. So you're going to play 3.5-hour games. Someone's got to be rewarded and be the damn winner. Come on, what are we doing? It's 2024. So players to watch for this backyard brawl. Running back Desmond Reed, Western Carolina transfer. He had 293 yards and a touchdown the first 2 weeks. He has been their workhorse back, but not your typical workhorse. He's very small, very tiny, 5'8", 5'9", 180 pounds, maybe soaking wet, but he is fast, he's twitchy, very tough person to tackle in the open field. Defensively, Donovan McMillan, the safety, he had 15 tackles last week for Cincy. The crazy thing is, it's not even his career high, which actually came against West Virginia last year in the backyard brawl. He had 18 tackles in the brawl last year. So he's going to be a player to watch. They also have another nice safety back there, Javon McIntyre, which we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. For West Virginia, it's C.J. Donaldson. In the last 2 years in this rivalry, C.J. Donaldson has rushed for 227 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's had his way with the Pitt Panthers defense. And then T.J. Jackson, a newcomer, a new starter on that defensive line. He's expected to fill in for the injured Eddie Vestorinen, who left the Albany game with a leg injury. He's expected to miss a few weeks. The Troy transfer looked pretty good the first 2 weeks, and now he's going to get that chance to start. So let's start with the guys on the Pitt side. Desmond Reed, Donovan McMillan. Gene, this is kind of a tough kind of feel, I guess, for West Virginia here defensively, because you're used to Pitt hammering the ball, pro-style offense. They like to run it between the tackles. Now they're a little bit different. They have a new offensive coordinator coming in who likes to spread things out, go up tempo, but they really like to get this Desmond Reed kid involved in the running game. He's also been a pretty good receiver out of the backfield as well. When you have a guy that dynamic, that versatile, and he's so damn tiny, like how do you defend that?
And I'm hoping that they had a great week of practice. I'm hoping that, leading into this game, get him to the ground, tackle, take really good angles. And you can't miss a guy like this in space because he's going to make you pay for it. And that's in the passing game as well, because you're right. They use him in the passing game. He runs decent routes. So a guy like that in space is going to be a problem, either, running out the backfield or in the passing game. So we really have to wrap him up and get him to the ground. And that has to start early. In the latter part of the games, a kid like him can make a big play when you're undisciplined and you make a mistake and you try to arm tackle and miss this guy. So we have to be consistent all the way through from quarter 1 to quarter 4. You just have to be consistent because if you don't, he'll make you pay.
Now, on the other side of West Virginia, like we just talked about CJ, running back of their own, he is probably licking his chops when he sees the Pitt Panthers coming up on the schedule because he's had a lot of success against this team. He bounced back last week after a rough week when he had 125 yards on the ground last week. The rushing game is going to be huge for the Mountaineers, regardless of who they're playing, where they're playing, what scheme they're going up against. But it feels like, particularly in this game against Pitt, getting CJ going early is going to be absolutely massive because it's going to allow you to get Jaheim White involved, who can really hit you with the outside stuff. It'll allow you to take shots downfield with Garrett Green. And if you can just get that defense to bite and suck in, you're going to have some chances for some explosive plays, but it all starts with CJ Donaldson.
Oh, no doubt. And I think that's going to happen anyway. I just think, there's always a player or a team that just has your number. Mm-hmm. And he has their number for sure. I agree. We get him going early and often. It'll open up some really good play action for us, hopefully, and get the ball down the field. I hope we are consistent and patient in the pass game, though. Take the shots when they're there, but you can create those shots depending on what you're doing offensively. Running behind taking those shots behind a really good running game. So I'm hoping we really dominate the line of scrimmage and get that going early so it can open up some of those passing lanes later. That's what I'm hoping for.
And then TJ Jackson, like I mentioned earlier, going to be filling in more than likely for Eddie Vesterinen. Tough loss for West Virginia. Guy that just plays with a very high motor. He's a high energy guy, leader along that front is Eddie V. But TJ Jackson has shown some things in these first 2 weeks, and a thing or two about transferring to a new place, aka West Virginia, like TJ here. And just walk me through what the emotions are like and the emotions that he's going to be feeling in this game, knowing that he's probably going to start, if not going to play a ton. What was that first moment like for you, knowing you were going to play a bunch, get to start, whatever, at your new school at West Virginia? What's your advice for TJ, especially this one being in a massive game against Pitt?
I would tell him to, first off, settle in, have a great week of practice, make sure he's prepared. Make sure he knows his assignment. That's first and foremost. Make sure that he knows what he needs to do. And be in the moment. I know, and it's hard. Like, be in the moment. Be excited because, a game of this magnitude and it's going to be you're going to get a chance to start. Be excited, but don't be overly excited when you make crucial mistakes.
Yeah.
Go out and let the game come to you. Don't rush it. Enjoy it. Honestly, just go and enjoy it. Like the night before that game, he should be hydrated, a lot of rest. Turn your freaking phone off. One thing I didn't have to worry about because back then there weren't no cell phones. But just like really relax and enjoy the moment. Like I said, suck it all in. Be in the moment. And when it's time to play, he's going to be nervous because anybody who says they're not nervous in a game like this, he's going to be nervous. But when you hit that field, knowing that he's prepared, knowing that he did everything he's supposed to do during the week, knowing that he's ready to play, go out there and play with confidence.
Yeah,
go out there and play with confidence. He'll be, and I believe he's going to have a heck of a game. He's going to have a good game.
I think he was probably pushing for more playing time anyways. He's a little undersized. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's athletic. He's twitchy, makes life hell on some of those bigger offensive linemen that have to really bend to get good pad level. But so let's stick on that side of the ball. Pitt offense, West Virginia defense. As I mentioned earlier, new offensive coordinator, Cade Bell, completely just blew everything up that Pitt's been doing the last few years. And when you go 3-9, it probably makes sense for Pat Narduzzi to be like, yeah, you know what we were doing before, that ain't working. It's not cutting. So let's try something else. They go out and get Eli Holstein, very highly recruited kid coming out of high school at quarterback. He committed and played at Alabama. He transferred in from there. This kid has been legit through the first 2 weeks. Now it's been Kent State in Cincinnati, don't really know much about Cincinnati. They weren't very good a year ago. It's too early to tell
Right.
what they're going to be like this year, but they were down 27-6 at Cincinnati last week, Gene. They had to find a way to scrap and come all the way back. And I don't know how much of that was more Cincinnati blowing it versus Pitt actually just making a really impressive comeback. Probably look at it and dial it up as both ways. But when you have a quarterback like Holstein's completing 66% of his passes through the first 2 games, that shows you that it's not taking very long for this guy to figure things out, understand his receivers, understand his protection up front, and obviously he's seeing things pretty well right now. How do you slow down somebody that is just firing on all cylinders right now outside of a couple of bad passes that he's had?
Yeah, you got to get to him. You got to get him off his spot. You got to apply pressure up front. And to be honest with you, you got to be exotic in your secondary. You can't let him sit back there, pat the ball, have a spot of tea, eat lunch, and go through his progressions all willy-nilly like. No, we can't have that. So we have to apply pressure up front. Make him move.
Yep.
Make him move around in the pocket. And again, the back end of that secondary has to be really zoned in on what they're doing. And the coverages have to be spot on. So you can't have receivers running through your zone. I tell you what, watching this kid throw the football, he's accurate to a fault. Because when he locks on a receiver, he locks on a receiver. So we should have an opportunity to have some big plays. We should have, God willing, 1 or 2 picks in this game, please. So I really think if we don't apply pressure, Schuyler, it can potentially be a long night. Because he can flat out throw the ball. He has really good arm talent. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. He's a good quarterback. You can't, and the thing, a kid like him, you can't take it away from him because he's sneaky enough athletically to make you pay when he moves out of the pocket.
Yeah, I mean,
So
technically, he's their second leading rusher right now, but I guess it doesn't take much because Desmond Reed has been, again, their guy that's just ate up all the carries, but you're right. I mean, and conversely, like I said about CJ seeing Pitt's defense, I mean, he's probably looking at this Albany tape from last week and thinking, sheesh, they threw for 300 yards on this team. What am I going to be able to do against them? So
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, you look at some of the receivers they have. Kanata Mumfield, he's their big time threat. He's averaging almost 18 yards a catch. He's their number 1 target. Desmond Reed, as I mentioned earlier, too, he's a force in the passing game. He's got 9 catches. He's their second leading receiver. Gavin Bartholomew, he's buried a little bit deep there. I think he's their 4th or 5th target right now through 2 weeks. But he's a pro tight end. He's been there for a long time. He can be a mismatch for some of those guys on West Virginia's secondary because he's a bigger body. You're going to have to put some type of a linebacker or a bigger defensive back on him. That's probably my biggest concern in this game. Yes, you can stretch the field all you want. You can take shots vertically, but that middle part of the field, the intermediate throws, when you have a guy like Gavin Bartholomew that can really carve you up in the middle, that's where this game could be won and lost.
No, I agree with you 100%. You put a guy like him on a linebacker, and with the body type that he has, that can become problematic. So again, we're going to have to do some things scheme wise, to not let him get in rhythm, to not let the quarterback get in rhythm, to not let it become those 3rd and shorts where you can really expand your playbook to do some things, and you got a tight end that has really good hands and really good body size and all that good stuff. Those seam routes become a problem. The little dig routes become a problem. The little hitches become a problem because of his body size. It becomes a basketball situation. He can box out linebackers and things of that nature. So we really have to make it uncomfortable for them offensively. We really have to do that. So the way you can get that done, you apply pressure.
Yeah.
Simple. You apply pressure. Don't let it become a situation where every short, like when down in distance, when it's short, and you can open your playbook up with a guy like him. If we can keep them out of those situations consistently, again, I think we'll be just fine.
The biggest key for me defensively for West Virginia is you got to get off the field, and I'm not being cliche here. I'll give you some context here. End of possession situations, 3rd down, 4th down, we're just going to lump these together. In the Penn State game, West Virginia's or Penn State was 6 of 12 on third and fourth down combined. It's 50%. Last week against Albany, the Great Danes were 9 of 21, a shade under 50%, but that's pretty good still. You look at what Pitt has done in these first two games, they're 48.1% on third down. And then also when you get inside the red zone, they've been damn near perfect. They are 7 of 8. The only time they didn't score was last week against Cincinnati. They threw the interception, but that's a team that you've got to keep out of the red zone. You got to get them in and play them behind the sticks. I mean, it's as simple as that sometimes. I mean, I know we can go deep into the details on some of these previews, and especially
Mhm.
early in the year, it's kind of hard to really figure out where some of the soft spots are for teams and where West Virginia can take advantage. But just through 2 weeks, that's been an issue for West Virginia is getting off the field, forcing punts, or turning them over on downs. That has been a major issue for Pitt. They've been able to continue to move the chains. So that's my number one key, I guess, for the defense. Flipping over to the offense, we've already talked about CJ Donaldson. Garrett Green, by the way, really good numbers last week. Completed 74% of his passes. I don't care the opponent. What I saw in the game is he looks more confident. He looks more comfortable. His off schedule throws, his ability to throw while on the run, and his ball placement look night and day compared to what we saw a year ago. And that was one of the biggest things that I really wanted to see him take a step in because some of those throws where he would roll out and try and make something happen downfield, he'd either airmail some things, throw it short, just miss it by just like this much. That's this past week against Saturday or this past Saturday against Albany. I get it's Albany, but he put it right in the right spot. He looked great with his mechanics, great footwork. A lot to like from Garrett Green last week. Hopefully, a sign of things to come.
Absolutely. No, I totally believe that. And I think he's going to continue to get better. He's going to continue to progress in all those areas that you just mentioned. He's a talented kid, man, and he's a hard worker.
Yeah.
So to see that, I was really happy for him last week. And I'm going to be even happier for him Saturday night. He's a baller.
Yes.
We show up. Yeah, ballers show up in games like this. And I know people are going to say, well, he didn't show up against Penn State. Again, Garrett Green does not call his own plays. I think we've learned you package certain things, you fix certain things, and as you progress during the season, you put him in positions where he can be successful. And
Yeah.
he'll go out and do exactly what needs to be done. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he puts on the field and how he plays this game come Saturday night.
Pitt has lost a lot off that defense a year ago. They lost a couple of guys to the transfer portal, most notably Dayon Hayes, who's now at Colorado playing for your boy, primetime Deion Sanders. And they've got just a little bit of a different look, but for the most part, scheme and all that stuff's going to stay the same. They're going to be a team
Right.
that's just aggressive. That's Pat Narduzzi's bloodline. That's his DNA. They're going to be blitzing from every which angle. They're going to load the box up. They're going to force you to take shots downfield. They're going to line up and play man coverage. They're going to force your receivers to make you beat them off the ball. And this is a real barometer, I think, for this wide receiver group. They didn't really pass the test in week 1 against Penn State, but it wasn't so much that they couldn't get open. It just they just couldn't complete the catches. I mean, they had how many drops in that game? Cole Taylor, Hudson Clement, Jaden Bray, Traylon Ray. It seemed like every single receiver in that game had a drop, and they were wide open. The first play of the game to Traylon Ray was a 30-yard plus play if he just holds on to it. So I don't think it was about getting open, but you got to complete the play. This week,
Right.
2 weeks later, I'd like to see that area improve. This is a really good challenge, a really good test to see how far you've come in 2 weeks. And look, the offensive line, I'm not all that worried about because even though Pitt does bring a lot of pressure, way more than Penn State did, obviously more than Albany did, and maybe probably the most aggressive defense we're going to see all year, maybe one of the most aggressive defenses. Wyatt Milam and Nick Malone, the 2 tackles for West Virginia, they did a phenomenal job against Penn State. You know who Penn State has? Abdul Carter, maybe the number 1 defensive player in next year's draft. They also have Danny Dennis Sutton, who's another first rounder, second round pick in next year's draft. They didn't get to Garrett Green. And I feel pretty confidently in saying that they're going to have a lot of success against this Pitt defensive front seven this week as well.
Oh, no, I agree with you 100%. And again, I'm going to say it again. Big-time game, big-time players play well in big-time games. So
Yeah.
I anticipate the offensive line playing well both in the run game and in the pass game. I really do. I don't think you get to this point and you get to this level and you don't anticipate playing well in these type of games, especially this particular rivalry. So I'm just hoping that they're not too amped up, not too hyped up, where you start making, crucial mistakes. Just let the game come to you. Sit in your technique. Play the way that you know that you've been coached to play, and don't have any major freaking MAs.
Yeah.
Simple. I mean, I shouldn't say simple because it's easier said than done, especially from a consistent level. But I believe they will play well enough in the passing game and in the running game, and for the Mountaineers to be very successful. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point because you have all the emotions flowing for this one. I mean, it's going to be like this every week. It's a big game every week because you have Big 12 championship aspirations starting next week, but everyone knows the amount of pressure that is on this team going into this game. The whole state wants this game. The university wants this game. Everybody in that program wants to win this damn game against Pitt. It's very easy to get so amped up, so excited because you're just so eager to make a play that you overplay something, and all of a sudden you see, the running back make a cut and he's going 50 yards down the field because you overran your run fit or something as simple as that. So it's very easy to mess up for sure. Lastly, your number one key for West Virginia's offense in this game.
Win the line of scrimmage. Win the line of scrimmage. Because when you punch somebody in the mouth and let them know you can run early and often, it just opens up so many other things, in our passing game. So if we win the line of scrimmage, West Virginia should be fine. You have to dominate the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like I said, I like their chances. They did well against Penn State. Think they can handle this too, even with a little bit more pressure. So now time for our weekly pick'ems. And Gene, we actually have a winner. We have Aaron Riffle was our first winner. He went perfectly 5-0 last week. He got there before we could get to 5-0. So congratulations,
Yes.
Aaron Riffle. Reach out to us. We'll get you hooked up with Eugene's autograph. Last week, though, Gene, we both went 4-1. Again, found different ways to get there. So now through 2 weeks, we are dead tied at a 6-4 record. Let's see if we can do this again, or if one of us takes a little bit of an advantage here in week 3. So let's kick things off in the SEC. It's where game day is going to be. It is LSU at South Carolina, kicking off at 12 noon on ABC. I was a little shocked to see the South Carolina score last week. Not going to lie. Didn't think that they would beat Kentucky that bad. I don't know that I'm going to pop all on the Gamecocks bandwagon here, though. LSU is a very talented team. I get it's going to be an incredible atmosphere down there, but I'm going to go with the Tigers here. This is a big test for them, too. They've already dropped one.
Yeah, no, it is. And that's exactly why I'm going with LSU as well. I agree with you 100%. And look at you getting off on the right start with picking LSU.
Listen, I'm telling you, sometimes it just takes me a little while. I like to go a little bold in my predictions every now and then because that's how you got to win a few of them. So, Boston College at Missouri, 12:45 on the SEC Network. This is a sneaky good game. I actually didn't even know this was a game until I was going through and trying to find some games for us to pick. Let me tell you what, the Castellanos kid, the small little tiny quarterback at BC is lighting it up. And if you haven't seen him yet, he is a fun player to watch. Tune in 12:45. You have some time to watch him before the Backyard Brawl. Missouri's talented. Do I do it, Gene?
Go ahead.
I'm not going to do. I want to go with Castellanos. I love what Bill O'Brien's building there at BC, but to do this on the road, I just can't. I'm going to make a smarter, safer play here and go with Mizzou.
Okay. Well, you do that.
Oh! You're going with bold prediction here, huh?
Listen, BC is well coached. They know what they're doing. My boy down there is the running back coach, Savannah Huggins. He got them running backs toting that pill. So I have to I'm going to make a real intelligent football decision here and select. No, I can't do it. Okay, so I'm going with Missouri as well.
Oh, not so fast, my friend, as Lee Corso would say.
Yeah. BC at Missouri. If Missouri was coming in the BC, that might be a little bit different deal. But I think it's going to be tough on the road.
That was my thinking too. Apple Cup, Washington State. This one at 3:30 on Peacock. Gosh, that sounds weird to say that the Apple Cup is being played in September. But that's what conference realignment will do for you. Washington's lost a lot off of that team that went deep into the national championship last year. Washington State, I don't really know what to make of them. This is a really good kind of test for both of these teams early on in the year. Washington State beat Texas Tech handily last week. Since they have this one at home, I'm going to lean with Wazoo here, but I could see it really going either way.
I could as well, but I'm going to go Washington State because I think they have something to prove.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're talking about rivalry and all that good stuff. I think Washington State understands, like, this is a great opportunity and it's early. You know, it's early for them in the season. So, I think, and they're at home as well, if I can remember correctly, correct?
Yes.
They're at home. So, I'm going Washington State.
A little Big 12 action here as UCF is heading to Fort Worth to take on the TCU Horned Frogs at 7:30 on Fox. I have been saying all offseason long and through the first 2 weeks of this season, I just don't buy the hype about UCF, Gene. I don't. I understand that they're a little bit better. They have KJ Jefferson, the Arkansas transfer quarterback. I can't see them going on the road here against a TCU team that is looking like they're about to bounce back from a down year a year ago. I get that Stanford's not great, but they took care of business winning at Stanford in the season opener. I like Josh Hoover here. I think they have a big day through the air, 300-plus yards. Horned Frogs take care of the Knights.
I agree with you 100%. I picked TCU as well. See, so far, you and I are the carbon copy so far.
Yeah.
The first four.
Yeah.
Now, the first four, we're good. Now, let me see if you get down here to the last pick, the pick that everybody's waiting for, and you fumble the daggone ball. Let's see.
So speaking of that, it is the Backyard Brawl. It is time to grab your hard hat when these two teams meet. It's nothing but blood, tears, sweat, whatever. It is just pure madness when these two get on the gridiron. West Virginia, Pitt, get your boxing gloves ready. It's time to brawl.
Huge game, obviously one that our fans always circle. Backyard Brawl, one of the best rivalries in all of college sports. But I don't think there's any doubt about that. First time back in Acrisure Stadium since the disappointment back in 22. That's still very fresh on our minds. This is one that's extremely important to the fans. Our players understand that. This is a game that's of super high importance to our fan base.
You know, really, really big rivalry game here, and there's maybe not many, more important rivalry games in the country. If you don't know anything about rivalries, this is the one. This is the one that people in Pittsburgh live for, people down south live for. And again, they got a great football team. Neil Brown's a heck of a football coach. You can throw every record out. We could be 0-2, they could be 0-2. It doesn't matter. This will be a knockdown, drag-out battle at Acrisure Stadium on Saturday.
It is the Backyard Brawl, West Virginia at Pitt at 3:30 on ESPN2 at Acrisure Stadium. Gene, I'm not going to go against West Virginia, am I? I mean, come on now. I think I'm a little harsher on the Mountaineers in some of these picks than you. Yes. But I can't in this game. I don't know that I've ever picked Pitt to beat West Virginia. Don't know that I ever will. It just feels like it always should be a win. With that said, you're right. I'm going West Virginia.
Okay. All right. I was getting ready to say, don't you do it. Don't do it to yourself. You're going to have to move. So you already know who I'm picking. You already know.
I don't know. You did go to Pitt. You did play at both schools.
Listen, bite your tongue.
Is there a little bit of Pitt Panther still in you, or is that faded away?
Bite your tongue. Bite your tongue. You already know who I'm picking. Let's go Mountaineers all day, every day. Let's go.
There you have it. So I guess either way, we're going to go and have the same record this week as we did last week. But hey, we'll have some separation at some point. But this was fun. Once again, it is the Backyard Brawl again this weekend, kicking off at 3:30 on Saturday on ESPN2. From now up until game day and kickoff time, I should say. Make sure you follow us on SI_WVU on our X account, and then also give us a subscription here on our YouTube channel at West Virginia on SI. And we thank you guys for tuning to another edition of the Walkthrough Game Day Show. Again, be sure to drop your picks in the pick'ems. You have a chance, like Aaron Riffle, to win a Eugene Napoleon autograph picture if you get all 5 picks right. So thank you guys for watching another episode of the Walkthrough Game Day Show for Eugene Napoleon. I'm Schuyler Callihan. We'll see you guys back here Saturday night to recap the Backyard Brawl on the Mountaineer postgame show.